Welcome to another episode of Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today we're going to be talking with Hal Horton and Jolana Pettifer, and we're going to talk about Christmas trees. We're going to talk about which tree is right for you, how to choose between an artificial tree and a real tree, and the benefits of both. As you can tell by the broadcast, we have a lot of fun when we do these shows. I hope you enjoy the information that's here. Have a very happy holiday season, everyone, and enjoy the show. Joining us in the studio right now is the one and only Hal Horton of Horton's Tree Farms. Actually, it's not
Ho, ho, ho. Yeah, sure it is.
There we go.
Horton
Tree Farms.
Tree Farm.
Yeah, that's because we have three of them.
Because you have more than one. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Preparations have been going well for Christmas for us so far. You never know what the weather's going to bring. Could be snowstorms. So we like to have snow to gives the mood and
a sleigh, right?
Yeah.
Is it easier to transport the trees when there's snow on the ground because you can just pull them along?
You know what? You're right. Dragging them through the grass is a lot harder. Yeah. The snow is actually it's good for business and it's good for the Christmas.
Dragging out a tree.
Yeah, and
I can't imagine pulling it along the grass. You'd be losing half the needles and snagging branches, and there's burrs and everything. It would be funny.
So it is that the trees, if cut and baled and just stuck in a shady part outside the garage or in the garage, they'll retain their moisture, no problem, and they'll stay fresh. Mm-hmm. So what the important thing is to hydrate the tree when it goes into the warmth. As long as it's outside.
Leave it when it's outside, right?
It doesn't even know it's been cut. So when it comes in, you do want to do a fresh cut or make some cuts or slices around the bottom of the bottom inch of the butt of the tree. If you're not cutting it again, anyway, cut it a bit longer so you can cut it fresh just once. Yeah. And it's usually in a bale. If it's not, you can just stick it in a pail of water in the laundry room for 10, 12 hours and watch how much that drinks as soon as because the tree thinks it's spring.
Summertime.
Oh yeah, it's like a gallon.
Yeah,
it's
it says,
crazy,
hey.
or more.
Or
it's
more, yeah. They can, they really can, and that makes the biggest difference for the whole rest of the season. That initial rush of water. Because the tree the ground just thawed out, and it's getting warm, and this is cool.
Yeah, let's have a drink. Let's have a drink.
Yeah.
Okay, keeps the needles off your floor.
It does.
So there you go. Yeah, you can cut them early and store them outside, no problem.
And does that go for all species of trees, or just some do well when they're picked in advance?
It works for all.
Really?
Yeah. As the winter progresses and you get the cold nights below zero and hot, dry days, the needles in the trees are actually desiccating every time a little bit. All through the winter, they're drying out more and more. So if in the middle of December, they've dried out more than they have now.
Okay.
And is there an optimal time frame from when you bring it into the house to when you really should think about taking it down? Is there such a thing? Like, would you say
when it's time to get the vacuum going? I guess it depends.
Once
some people like to keep it in. Definitely, some species hold their needles longer than others.
What would those be?
The firs and the pines will hold their needles longer than the spruce. But if you follow those guidelines that I was just suggesting, bringing it in and then cutting it fresh and letting it drink the first couple of nights, and that depends on where the tree's placed, of course, which is your sort of...
not near a fireplace.
The heater in the front bay window facing south.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to do well.
No.
The tree thinks it's moved to the Bahamas.
Yeah. So, it'd be better in and off corner is usually a little bit better. You don't want to have it in the blazing sun. And it depends on what people... I have mine up for usually 6 weeks, and by the time it comes down...
So there we go. So you can go that long.
And if you don't let the water go down below the level of your cut, there's no reason why they can actually start regrowing again. You'll see the buds stretching, and I've had little branches start growing.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, if you never let it dry out. And that won't happen every time because the tree naturally seals up the cut where it was.
Right.
It gets gummed up after a while, even if there's fresh water there. So, but it's never the same thing. There's no set rule or.
Oh. And what about adding something to the water? Should you add anything or just plain old
Used
water?
to be an old wives' tale, ginger ale, sugar, and all the rest. But now there is, I don't have the brand name on the tip of my tongue, but there's a couple of tree preservatives that you can buy usually at garden centers, etc. And they do help keep the pores of that fresh cut
open,
so that the tree absorbs water more readily. And so up until 5 years ago, you would just say hogwash, but this is actually I believe it's like a safe chemical.
Product.
Yeah, safe product. And it just helps keep it open. Keep the blood flowing. It's like a blood thinner, I guess. Or
there you go. Well, we got to take a little break. So, speaking of Dr. Seuss.
Horton Hears a Who?
Yeah, well, Horton Hears a Who and the weird trees. There are some weird-looking Christmas trees, and it seems like you get your really traditional spruce fir, but then people will go for something that looks like,
Charlie Brown.
Yeah, or...
I've seen it happening, for sure.
Or some of those weird front yard trees, that they actually look like Dr. Seuss. I can't remember.
The one that folds
they fold over and they droop around, and then people try to decorate them and they just look awful.
The weeping cypress, I think that is.
But you can't cut those and bring them in, can you?
Sure.
Oh, you can? There you go.
Whoever's lawn, you might want to get permission before you go ahead with such a project.
Do not cut down your neighbor's tree.
Turn on the lights on the house at night.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
As far as I know, they're not grown for a Christmas tree. They're because they do take a long time to grow, and like they'd be 20 years old before. Neat looking, though, and there's no reason why not. It's a conifer. It's a member of the cedar family, and it would actually cedar retains its foliage really, really well. That would be a neat option or an alternative. I've got a couple in the fields that have just grown wild, and I kind of trim them up. But just like you can trim any tree and shape it.
Now, why wouldn't cedar be a normal Christmas tree?
I really don't know.
I don't know. Are
it would
the
be a shorter,
sturdy enough?
Not really to hold.
Yeah, that could be maybe why.
You'd have to place them sort of in
and then you kind of lose the effect of the...
Yeah, but if they were trimmed...
If you just light it,
it would smell.
Like if you just put lights on
lights through it and
lights on it, not lighted a fire.
Inside.
No.
But the aroma...
The aroma would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's what I think draws people to the firs, isn't it? Because they have that a really nice aroma.
Yeah, sort of a citrusy aroma. The spruce trees have a really nice, strong aroma, too.
Yes.
Pines, not so much, but there is... Boy, if I think back to my childhood, just walking out first thing in the morning, I don't know if it's the 5 days before Christmas or before you open the little window on the calendar, but just that smell that was in the room from just having a real tree, no matter what it was.
And there's companies that have actually captured that scent.
Yes.
I'm sure you've
on
seen it
on their Noma.
On the sticks and on the sprays.
Yeah.
And
Now you can
they
spray
could.
your fake trees with pine scent or
we like
spruce
to call
scent.
them artificial.
Yes. Okay. Not fake trees. Artificial trees. And you can spray them to smell like a real tree, which is really kind of funny.
Yeah, you can.
Well, I guess that's people's option if that's what they want.
And there's applications where real works beautifully, and there's applications where an artificial tree just works better too.
I agree with you. Like you said, we're in front of the bay window where there's a heater. If that's where you want your tree.
Yeah.
There's nothing saying you can't have another tree in the den or somewhere else. People have multiple trees.
Yeah.
And even I think I mentioned this last year, people are coming and cutting the tree with a longer stem and planting it in their new yard, right in the front yard.
So this is after Christmas, they'll take it down?
Before, as a decoration.
And it stays there, and outside the tree doesn't know it's been cut. It'll still be green in there until next April.
Huh. And then
so you take the decorations off,
and
sure it might be $50 or $60, but geez.
It's nice.
That's not much for a decoration that lasts you that long. And then you can use
it for the fireplace, the bonfire outside.
For your chimney.
You could create a forest. The only problem in the spring, I could see someone knocking from the
But, all you'd have to do is just wait till it was thawed enough, pull it out, put it on the side of the road, and it gets recycled along with all the other Christmas trees that the municipalities, I think every municipality has a recycling program. They get chipped up and put into the gardens around town, and so
it's actually great.
It's reusable and recycled.
All right. Well, that brings us into one of the questions from a listener. And Sarah had this question. She thinks it's really, really mean to cut down a real tree and kill a tree for no reason. Tell everybody about the sustainability of Christmas tree farms.
Well, this is a common question for sure. A tree farm or a Christmas tree farm is no different in theory as a tomato farm, a pumpkin farm, a corn farm, or any other farm that grows a crop. In fact, Christmas tree farming, when you harvest corn and harvest soybean and whatever, that field gets turned up and fertilized maybe and grows a new crop the next year. Christmas trees take 10 to 15 years to grow. So that soil is not getting disturbed nearly as much, which allows all sorts of small beneficial insects in the soil and buildup of humus. Now, if you were to go into a forest situation and cut down every tree that looked like a Christmas tree, that would be bad.
Yeah.
But the point is that this is a farming operation, and every 10 or 12 years, you get a new crop cycle as opposed to vegetables is a 1-year crop cycle.
So you're constantly planting.
Constantly planting new right beside the stumps of the old ones. So in fact, the new little trees get to sustain themselves off the decomposing stump that was there. I don't know how many times you've seen mice, squirrels, fox, deer, birds, you name it, living in and around any other crop field. But the Christmas tree fields are full of them. Insects and animals. I saw 5 deer this morning.
Wow.
And a bunch of turkeys. Within about 5 minutes of each other.
That's because Thanksgiving is over. Just pointing that out.
So anyway, this is not cutting out of a tree that's grown naturally by itself. This has been planted.
On purpose.
And tended to on purpose as a crop for people's enjoyment, obviously. You don't eat it, but you sure can enjoy it. And that's not actually true either, because you can make out of almost all the conifers, you can make a tea just from steeping the needles.
I've seen honey.
Now, you did that with hemlock because it's good for colds. There's a lot of vitamin C in it, doesn't it?
Yep.
But do you have to do something?
You can make
do you have to dry it out first or something?
You don't really. You can. You just have to experiment with the amount and what you've done. You don't have to dry it out. You can just steep the green needles.
You just steep them in boiling water and it turns into tea.
And you just might need a sieve to
pour
it into the cup so you're not got a mouthful of needles. Tea leaves and coffee grinds are one thing, but mouthful of spruce needles, make good toothpicks.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I know a man who was from Sweden and worked up in the Wilberforce area at one of the campsites up there.
That's where my cottage is.
Yeah, right down the road from you at the Glens. And he used to chew the spruce sap.
Yep.
He made it into gum, and that's what he chewed every day. You'd always see him with this wad of what was thought was gum, and then one day we saw him picking it off the tree.
Yeah,
that was a native thing, an Aboriginal thing, and it also patched up your birch bark canoe pretty well, too.
Yeah.
And kept your waterproof side pack, whether it was made of usually hide. That was their glue and their gum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's all kinds of good things.
It's like the corner store. You could have tea, glue, gum, all from one, all from the tree, and
and a turkey.
Don't just throw it out at the end of the curb. Use it, all of it.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, so we've got. Can you use hemlock as a Christmas tree? I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, sure you could. The thing is, naturally grown trees just don't have the form that you and I know as a Christmas tree.
Right. There's holes in them.
Well, when the artificial tree came out, they were copying, of course, what we were doing and the shape that Christmas tree growers had come up with by pruning each tree every year in a certain fashion to make them bushy.
So that's what you do. You actually cut the branches so they don't grow all straggly and weird.
Every year you cut the tree just picture your shrubs in front of the house. If you don't do it yourself, the landscaper comes every year or twice a year and trims them down and makes it a circle or a square or a squiggly. So we do that just on a way larger scale with teenage kids and great big long dangerous looking knives and shears. And it's actually a really fun job, and we've employed it must be thousands of kids over the years have either had their first job or one of their first jobs, probably working at Horton's if you're in the area, trimming trees.
Sounds like it'd be a lot of fun if everybody's out doing it, as long as you're doing it safely and not cutting off limbs and things.
We do
limbs of people.
We have a couple of rules.
Yeah. I'm sure you'd have a couple of rules.
But they do have a ball. Eventually, sometimes in the mornings, it's pretty hard to get some of them started and going. But
the cold weather usually gets them awake, doesn't it?
Well, you never know.
So, a quick question that I have. So.
Sure.
Some of the ornaments today are pretty heavy duty, right?
Yes.
So what trees would you recommend for like the mercury balls? Like they're lovely, but they're heavy. Are there certain trees that are going to do a little better?
Yes. But that depends also, I mean, on even within the species of trees, some are softer than others, and even within those, there's going to be one that has a stiffer branch or not. That's actually got to do with the pruning process.
Right, okay.
The pruning process makes the branches stiffer.
Wow. Okay.
So the density, a denser tree, where you can hardly see through, it's obviously going to hold more.
Yeah.
If you can see through the tree, it's going to be
it's going to be
a
more
lighter branches.
Traditional kind of Christmas tree where you have the little smaller ornament.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have Fraser and Canaan firs have a stiffer branch. The balsam firs can be, but they're usually a little softer.
Okay.
And the
Scotch pine is stiff.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was
White pine is soft, but because they're pruned, they can also hold. Probably the best one is the Colorado spruce, which comes in a blue and a green shade.
Okay.
They're prickly to deal with, but that also keeps the kids that want to grab it too much, and the cats away. Yeah, they jump in there once or twice, and they decide that's about the end of that.
and you can put on those gloves as you're actually hanging your ornaments.
Yes,
too,
and so there's your answer.
Yeah.
And if you go to the field and find one, or whether you're going to a lot or whatever, usually what you want is something that does have gaps, so that you can see them.
You can see them.
And so you're pretty much down to only a couple of species. Well, I guess what you would do would hold the tree up,
and have
put your finger on said branches, you pick the stronger ones that are halfway down. You can see by the diameter of the branch coming off the main stem, and actually find, because you might only need 4 or 5 key ones, right?
Yeah.
Should be able to get by.
Yeah, okay.
With just
I just have had people ask that question, and it's a great question.
Yeah, actually just look at the branches and feel them, see if what they can do. You can do that physically.
Yeah, what weight they can hold, because some of those
you get an idea.
Are really
the glass balls that are out right now, like they're not light. They're beautiful, but they're not light.
And some of the ones that turn around, like the Hallmark will release their special ones each year, and they're animated, so they actually plug in.
Yeah,
they're heavy, and they have like people that move or things that move, and so you need the space around, because if they hit the branch, it goes ding 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 ding, bing bing.
The farther you go into the tree, the thicker the branch will get, so you may have to carve a little hole just carefully with some sequiturs or pruners, or just to make for something specific like that.
We've taken
sure, you can snip a little hole. If it's going to be full of a big decoration, then you can put it part way into the tree where there's a stiffer, sturdier branch.
We've also taken the floral wire and actually held branches together. So if you have a strong branch here and a really not so strong one here, so there are things you can do.
Yeah.
So you wire the 2 branches together to give them a little
give it some oomph.
Or wire them so it doesn't go lower than where you want it to go. You wouldn't wire them together, because you still want them to have that gap, right?
Right.
Yeah, sure. There's probably little tricks you can use.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got to take a little break and pay some bills now, and we'll be back with Jolana and Hal and Christmas trees right after this quick break. We're back on Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today we're talking with Hal Horton and Jolana Pettifer, about Christmas trees. Hal Horton is a Christmas tree expert. He's been growing trees for a very long time at Horton's Tree Farms. Again, I'd like to let everyone know that unfortunately due to COVID-19 and poor growing seasons in 2006, Horton Tree Farms will not be open this season. It's a sad thing indeed, because Horton's Tree Farms has been around for a long time. And you'll notice that there's been a Christmas tree shortage of real trees all across Ontario. And that's because in 2006, when we had the really bad drought followed by a number of years of dry, hot weather or seasons where it's rained too much, the trees have suffered. And the tree that you're cutting down this year is actually a tree that started its life growth probably 15 years ago. So have a listen. We've got some really cool information coming your way. If you did buy a tree in a retail setting and you're thinking, oh, I got a subpar tree, that's not necessarily the case. And trees that were cut back in November can still be viable right now, as long as you take care of them properly. So Hal's got some really good tips coming your way. Stay tuned. This is Freshwaves. I love driving down Aurora Road towards Stouffville.
Yes.
On any December weekend, and you see all of these cars heading back to the other way. Every single one has a tree on top of it.
And the odd one is a little bigger than perhaps the car should be, right?
I love the ones where the front, they always put the pointy part of the tree at the front. I would turn it the other way around so that the wind is blowing through the tree and
make it aerodynamic. Yes, exactly. That's the way to do it. But you always
see them with the other way around, and the front of the tree just flapping up and down in the wind is the funniest thing, and you think, oh, there come the idiots.
So what are your words of wisdom about size matters here?
Look at the space that you have in your space where you want your tree. It might be 5 feet wide and 8 feet tall, which, well, tall the ceiling. Your ceiling height is the first thing. Yeah. Most are 8. Mm-hmm. But of course, there's a lot that have a taller ceiling, and of course, taller trees do cost a bit more money in most cases. It's also harder on a cut-your-own farm to find the perfect tall tree. Yeah. Because all the ones that were the good ones will go every year. There's we only have a certain number that are ready for that year. And so the good ones tend to go first on the early weekends. Anyway, your space is important.
Very important, because in a field...
In the field, your perception... your perception is completely off. I know from many years of experience that take a measuring tape.
Yeah,
or use yourself as a gauge. Yeah. If you're 5 feet or 6 feet, then you should be able to figure it out. But there's also, you've got to look at the base of the tree. Maybe the bottom foot or two is not good.
Yeah.
And will end up getting trimmed. So what you really want is from the top of the tree down, whether that's going to be 6, 7, or 9 or feet.
And then you want to have space for the star or whatever ornament you're going to put on the top, which can sometimes be an extra foot.
For sure.
On the top of it.
And there are tricks that you can use, like there are stands that are different heights. So if you find a 6-foot tree, there are beautiful stands to give you that extra 1.5 feet if you need it, right?
Yeah. So, and you have to account for leaving usually around at least a 12, maybe 14-inch thunk up to the first layer of good branches.
Right, because you want lots of presents to go underneath those, right?
You don't go in and just start cutting right away. It's good to measure.
Agreed.
And then leave yourself a little extra on the trunk. Measure from the top down to see which 7 feet of the tree you want, and which side you got to go around, because
it's a live thing. It's
more often than not, it's going into a corner or against a wall. It doesn't have to be perfect all the way around.
Yes.
Look around the tree and say, okay, this is the side we want. And put your mitten in there, or tie a little ribbon or a clamp and say, this is the good side. Because you don't need a perfect tree all the way around, and it's really hard to grow a perfect tree all the way around.
Because some of it's exposed to the sun and some of it isn't.
And in the north, there are other trees are close by. Yeah. And so there's usually always going to be a fall. Actually, a number 1 tree is 3 out of 4 sides.
Right.
Yeah. That would make perfect sense. Now, do you let people come in with their own chainsaw and go have at her?
If they need to. We do provide saws. A chainsaw is pretty, we don't really like it, but there's only get a couple a year that actually think they need to bring in their chainsaw. or their battery-powered jigsaw, or...
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
And even axes. I've seen guys come with axes and hack them down, and we hope they don't hurt themselves.
Do you have saws available if people don't have that kind of equipment?
Yes, absolutely. We have Swede saws that are meant for cutting down just 3-4 inch trunks, and you don't have to bring a saw. Some guys will have their own brush saw, Swede saw, even a good carpenter saw will work.
Yes.
Anything that's a reasonably sharp saw should
if someone comes and they have no equipment, can you actually go and cut it for them? They choose their tree and...
No.
Keep Junior there?
We won't. No, we will gently coax them toward the field with the saw in hand. We'll give them a sawing lesson. But no, if we were to go out and cut a tree for everybody that requested we'd have no staff to take care of the customers that are out there cutting their own like they're supposed to be.
Right. But that's why the cut your own comes into play.
There's certainly people that are new to it that come every year and they say, we have never done this and we don't know what to do, and will you go out and do it for us? And sure, we just had to explain. Said, just watch the other 10 people that are out there, and we'll tell them the way to cut the tree properly so that it's not too hard and
it doesn't fall on them.
Yeah. And
tell them to go watch Christmas Vacation.
And
what not to do.
I've seen numerous trees, not quite that size, but certainly very, very close, stuffed onto Volkswagens and oh my gosh, and they just have no idea what size it is, and they can't get it through the door.
So do you tie them on? Because I picture it as a torpedo going down the highway if they have to make a quick
once
stop.
Again, that's something that if we do, then we're sort of responsible for it. We provide rope.
Okay.
And string for those who didn't bring it.
Are the trees bundled for the most part?
Yes, we'll bail them into a little tube.
Okay, that's perfect.
So they don't have to go on the top. They can, depending on what kind of vehicle, they can sometimes be slid right inside if you have a plastic bag. They can, some vehicles have roof racks, which makes it pretty easy.
Yep.
They can go in the angle in the trunk. But with enough string, some of the newer, smaller cars are pretty slippery, round little roofs. You have to be pretty good. And I've seen people tie it so much. I've seen people tie it through their doors and up and over the top. And just at finishing, realize that they can't open their door
to get in.
So they have to cut that off, open both doors, tie it all again, and then get in and shut the door. So
that's why you
pretty much seen it all. Pretty much seen it all, and just about every weekend, at the end of every Saturday or Sunday night. Yeah, there's 4 or 5 people there in the dark, wet and struggling, and then I do have enough staff that are waiting to go home that, yes, we do help them at that point in time.
Because you want them to leave. You've had a really good day, it's time to go now.
Yeah, there's always funny things that happen, right? At the end of the day, the last customer will have a flat tire or something like that.
Oh my.
So anyways, it's an adventure.
That's all part of the experience.
It's an adventure.
Right?
It's the fun, and you're there with the family, and everybody's playing and having fun.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time. You're listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. We have Jolana Pettifer in the studio, and she's got a dash out. So thank you for coming in this morning, Jolana.
Thank you. That was great
and
fun.
Hal, we're going to continue our little conversation here about trees. We've brought them in, you sucked up the water, you put them in the stand. Now, you've got to water them every day or every other day, or how does it work?
You've just got to monitor it. Look at the level of the water in your stand that should hold, at least 4 liters, and the trunk being
that's
down.
That's a lot of water.
That's a small stand. It should be bigger. The bigger, the better.
Really?
You can submerge them in a 5-gallon pail would be sufficient. You can hang them from the ceiling, actually, and into a 5-gallon pail or a bigger pail. I've done that before. Mm-hmm. Just watch the water level. You'll get natural, I guess, it'll evaporate by itself just in the room.
Right.
And the tree in the early days, if you didn't do that bucket trick, it'll empty the little stand in the first day, goes below the level of the trim or the cut, And at that point, the sapwood or the cambium seals with the gum, and no matter how much more water you put in there, it's not going to take it in. So you got to actually reach down in and shave it off again with your butcher knife, or just, open up that wood a little bit better.
Okay. And then you're going to be doing that for the...
Daily. You watch daily. At some point, the tree will stop absorbing, and at that point, it's drank enough, and that's the optimum conditions.
Right.
And then you just wait. And when the needles start dropping, actually, you can buy the skirts that go at the base of the tree that are plastic bags. I've used the same one 4 years in a row now. It's just a giant garbage bag.
And then you put your decorative one over top.
Yeah.
So that when you're ready to...
And you just fold it up over, get it out to the side of the road for recycling, and take the bag off and use it again next year, or use it for something else. Reuse it. Tree bags, they actually have them. We do sell them. I usually sell out.
Tree. Because I take the fake tree in one piece and put it in the basement, standing up. But I wrap it in a tarp. That sounds like a lot more efficient way to
go buy the biggest garbage bag you can find.
Yeah, just wrap it in a garbage bag. Actually, the artificial trees, like a real tree, have a shelf life. There comes a point where, after 21 years, the artificial tree is probably past
It's actually less than that. It's been proven that it's less than that. I think the average is more like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, mine's 21 years old this year.
And before people just want to change.
Yeah.
So
they've improved them a lot in the last 20 years, I can honestly say.
Yeah. They have. I have to admit that. Yeah.
And it's funny too, because people have said to me, I don't want a real tree because you can't manipulate it the way you can a fake tree, because the fake trees are artificial, The artificial trees are made of wire, so you can bend a branch to kind of suit your need. But you can still do that, like you were just saying, with a real tree.
You can.
You can use that florist's wire and wire things
you can
over to the side. You can
invent
snip
all
a bit
sorts
off.
of things.
Yeah, sure you can.
Yeah. And if you hang something that's really heavy, it draws that branch down, and now it's created a space for something else over above it, because it's pulled that branch down a bit. You've got another little space above it. That happens to me every year.
Besides the artificial tree, you can have the bowl of artificial fruit and the artificial flowers. People want the real thing sometimes.
They do. You need the real thing. Now, what about the garlands for the fireplace? Can we have a real garland on a fireplace?
You can have an urn with water and fresh twigs in it. But no, things like cedar roping or anything like that wouldn't...
It's a fire hazard, too.
Oh, for sure. Or any kind of a candle holder idea. It looks cute, but no.
No,
not a good idea.
Yeah,
certainly outdoors. Certainly in cooler parts.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that have Muskoka rooms or 3-season rooms. So absolutely 100%. It looks beautiful.
Yeah. Garden planters out the front.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, you can put the temporary tree out in the front yard. You can take, in the front gardens by the doorstep. There's no reason why you can't, through the mulch, jam some sticks and twigs. And if they're not decorated, they'll still look good all winter long.
Yeah.
And just pull them out in the spring, and so you've got an instant evergreen sort of a decoration there, I'm
For
sure.
all those new homes out there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why
that
not?
doesn't have a lot of landscaping. And then you have an outside railing, so a garland looks
you
nice.
put flowers in as annuals, why not do a winter thing?
When you get because you do sell garland, right? You do sell just branches as opposed to trees, whole trees. You can buy just branches, right?
Yeah, I have bunches of branches that are available mixed with red dogwood and pines and fir. And,
now if you
can make your own stuff.
If you do that and you've got an outside railing, a lot of the new homes in the subdivisions have these little tiny, maybe 3-4 feet long wrought iron railings on the porch. So you walk up the steps and then you've got this little railing. If you put the real garland out there on that, will it stay green?
Yep.
It's not in water though, it's just outside. But it's outside so it doesn't...
It's right on the south facing. It might start to get a little orange after a month or two, but no, it'll stay green through January and... Yeah, there's no reason. And
we're going to let Jolana get on her way because she's got an appointment at noon.
Have a great decorating week or two, and I hope everyone makes it out for the Christmas trees.
Oh, thank you.
I hope so, too.
Nice to see you again.
See ya.
Okay. Bye, Jolana. Thanks for coming in. So we can actually have that outside, and it doesn't need to have a water source. It's just going to be
it's frozen. It's dormant.
And it looks nice.
Yeah. Just as the trees are, all that goes back to the question is how fresh are they going to be and when were they cut? Some wholesale trees start to be cut in the second and third week of October, baled and stacked in a cool area in the shade, and they keep just as well like that as ones, as I described before, get drier and drier as the fall goes on, as the trees become more and more dormant.
Right.
Once all the ground freezes up, there's nothing going on. So
right. Well, I will say that last year I took your advice with the outside urn, and I did cut the tree, the branches. I put them in moist dirt, and when it all froze over, they were there till, I'm ashamed to say the
probably
end.
June?
Yeah, May, for sure, May. And they were still green. They started to go brown in May when everything started to unfreeze, and then they kind of thought, oh yeah, I am dead. But they were fantastic for the whole winter. And as I took out all of the things that were really Christmassy, just pulled those little rods with little balls,
and then you got
I took the lights off, and they just looked fantastic.
Otherwise it'd be an empty urn.
Yeah. Because it was all just green then, and it just looked nice, with a couple pieces of the white birch in the back, and it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a good idea.
There's no reason why you can't get more life out of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it looks nice through the whole winter, which is a good thing, because there's, like you said, why not have some winter decoration as well as summer decoration?
Well, with the moisture in the soil in the urn, if the twigs were reasonably freshly cut, they'll actually start absorbing the moisture and stay green, like you said, till almost June.
Yeah.
Until they finally realize, oh, geez, my God, no roots. But by that time, hopefully, Brenda, you've already got your other summer and springtime planting.
Right.
Your cabbage or
underway.
Yeah.
So what are the kinds of trees that people can get from Horton Tree Farms? What are the species that you guys have? Probably
way more than, I mean, it's pretty much a mono species when you go to the supermarkets.
Right.
There's pretty much all fir. You can get some spruce and some pine.
But at your place?
At our place, we have 5 types of spruces, 5 or 6 types of firs, not as many because they're so popular. They do go first. We probably have 15 or more species of trees.
Wow.
They might all look the same to them. As the grower, I can tell the difference.
Right.
Basically, there's 3 species, firs, pines, and spruces.
Now, the spruce, when you say you had all those different varieties, do you actually have one that is, it's not obviously the right term, but a blue spruce, one that has that blue tinge to it?
Yes. The Colorado spruce, which comes in everything from green to brilliant blue. Yeah, we're growing those. And also the Norway spruce, one of our better growing trees, is a beautiful emerald green with an orange twig.
Wow.
The white spruce, which is indigenous or native to Canada and around here, comes in all different colors, just from the seed source. And
now, does it retain the color when you've got it in your planter, or does it kind of fade to a normal green?
It should stay the same.
The same
as when it was
color.
cut. Yep.
Isn't that neat?
But the blue color does not show up with Christmas lights on or much inside the house.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah,
it needs the sunlight.
It needs the sunlight to be able to see that blue, so it could be a...
And then if you put it in the sun, it's not got the longevity because it's too warm. So there you go. See, you don't need a blue spruce. You just need
you can have a Charlie Brown with all your beautiful decorations on it. It's going to be beautiful. And you mentioned that at the start. Yeah, I've seen some real Charlie Browns come out where there was a stump that I'd forgotten to cut down in a far corner that's growing 4 different trees coming off the one stump. I've seen people with those before. And all odd shapes. You don't have to conform to the perfect tree every time.
My family always had a short, fat tree, and we called it George every year.
A Scots pine, probably, in the early days.
And we'd always say, okay, this weekend we're going out to get George. And we'd all go out to look for George. And George was never more than 5 feet tall, and George was 5 feet wide as well.
That's a good challenge for your dad to make a stand that'll hold old George up, I guess.
No, he had
hang it from
beams.
the ceiling.
So he had the tree was always tied with black thread from the tree, black fishing line. You know the one that you use for
I was just going to say,
trout?
I was just going to say, you can use
way deep down.
Fishing line is perfect for doing that.
So we would use 100-pound line and tie it from the top, and it was tied off all these guy lines running out to the wooden beams in the room, and it was just kind of comical. But every year we went looking for George.
Yeah.
George the tree. Anyway, we've got to wrap up the show. Hal, thank you very much for coming in. We always love the information that you have to share with people. There's a lot of misconception out there that if you get a real tree, it's only going to last a week, and it's going to be a horrible mess. It lasts for 6 weeks if you do it right. And if you get out there in the next couple of weeks, then you're going to be getting the pick of the crop. You'll get whatever tree you really want. If you wait until the 3rd week of December, you've got whatever's left over. And that's probably not the best way to go. You'd want to get out there when you can.
There's always still some.
Yes, always, but
there.
Go for the
if you start early, have your family outing, because as it gets into December, you get
busy,
extremely busy on weekends. It's hard to put a day aside. Yeah. So
it's a good time of year to get out there. That's
my suggestion. Come in the earlier part of the season and store your tree away and
go at it from there
and water it.
Water it, and scrape it down if it needs to, and all that kind of fun stuff.
And enjoy it with knowledge that it's grown as a crop and reusable and replanted every year.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? If you've missed any of this show and you think, what did he say about that? You can always listen to the podcasts. They're available on my website, freshwaves.ca. You've been listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. Join us every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock for great conversation, interesting topics, and always a lot of fun. Thanks for your help behind the board, Jay Rumball.
My pleasure.
Have a great day, everyone. Well, that's it for another episode of Fresh Waves. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you've gained some useful information about your holiday greenery. From everyone here at Fresh Waves, me, your host, Bren Masson, Jay Rumball, our technical producer, and of course our man around the house and just all around great guy, Ivan Harris. We'd like to wish everyone a very happy, healthy, and safe holiday season. Merry Christmas, everyone, from all of us here at Fresh Waves.